Welcome back to Chaos Corner. It's me. It's me. It's the GOC. I'll say that to say this, because I tell it like it is. A special edition of Chaos Corner, 25 feet below the surface of the earth. Fans, I came across this down in Chaos Chronicles in the vault, and it's something I want to bring to you guys here on Sunday Conversations with your old buddy, Big Daddy. That's right, Sunday Conversations, that's what we'll call this. It's sort of a review of a different kind of thing I want to bring to you guys, a book that I'm not sure if too many of you out there that are well-read and different people in the writing community and the IWC, the pro wrestling community, if you've seen this before. Here on the Guardian of Chaos channel, the YouTube network, I've covered partial of this probably when we first started the channel 3 years ago. I did some of the reviews and personal things on here, but this was written, this was written and published in 2012. So here we are in 2023. So it's a little over 10 years ago, 11 years ago, guys. And it's A Battle Royal in the Sky, the life and death of wrestling's 100 greatest gods and gimmicks. It's written by John Chapman and Rich Tarantino. The foreword's by Al Snow. That right there says a lot that he put his endorsement on it. And I believe that the afterthought or the afterword is by the legendary Terry Funk. That's right, Terry Funk. So to have Al Snow and Terry Funk associated with this book, this is basically not a hard copy, it's a soft copy of the book. It's got a lot of pages to it, fans. We're going to review this here today. There's a lot to be said. I might break this up in segments. We might do it as a series. Again, I started this once before, but it caught my eye. Sunday Conversations here with Story Time and the Guardian of Chaos. We're going to jump off all the other social media platforms. Meet me back here on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel. All right, fans, we're off of Twitter, and you know that's where to reach me in real time, at Big Daddy GOC. And the GOC stands for the Guardian of Chaos. We're off of Instagram right now, but you know where to reach me on Instagram. It's the Guardian of Chaos. On Facebook, I have 2 accounts. Hit me up over there. J Brony. That's right, Jabroni. J Brony. Spell it out. And Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian. Follow me on Gitter, Gab, Truth Social, Rumble. I have accounts on all those other different social media platforms to make my presence felt as a content creator, to build the channel. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours. We are on the precipice. I need you, the fans. And that's why the constant content, whether it be the WWE pay-per-views, AEW live-to-tape watch-alongs, Dynamite, Collision, reporting live on Twitter, on Instagram, posting different things, historical reviews, book reviews. This is what we do here on Guardian of Chaos, plus the videos that I have of my career and the events that I've been involved with. Come to this channel. Let's grow this. But in the meantime, this is Sunday Conversations. This is Story Time with yours truly, Big Daddy. The camera's up a little high today. What do you want me to tell you, man? This ought to be an interesting book, and I might break this up, like I said, into segments. Nice and relaxing here at the headquarters. I'll show you some visuals as well in here. Again, 11 years ago. So it's current to a lot of you talent and workers and grapplers of today's era. Again, the life and death of wrestling's 100 greatest gods and gimmicks. So I'll start off with the foreword from Al Snow. The contents are vast in here. Again, the book is probably, I want to say, at least in 160 pages. So again, we're going to go from chapter to chapter, give you a little bit on each one, and try not to make it too crazy to keep your attention. But just to have the foreword by Al Snow, who I just recently watched a video where he's talking about kayfabe how it is important in 2023 and et cetera, et cetera. I've appeared on different events back in the early and middle 2000s with Al Snow, and just to be in the same locker room and listen to his stories and pick his brain. And, he went from being, Mr. Head and all that, and starting in ECW and OVW and being a great trainer, and his career in the WWE, WCW World Traveler, to looking as one of the most honest, sincere carpenters that gives back in today's business in Al Snow. I mean, he really is a genius when he talks about the business. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. Al Snow's one of the best out there. He's still involved with OVW. I believe there's a run-in a la on the forward too by Peha Oi, Melihini Kane, Pupule, Wiki, Aloha, and Mahalo by Brother. Superfly Jimmy Snuka makes an appearance in this book. Again, go out and get it, and I'll give you the details on this. Here's the foreword by Al Snow. Now, bear with me. Again, story time. Sunday conversations, or any day conversations. Don't limit me, man. You can go back and read this and check it out and listen to this. It's also on audio and all social media platforms. So here we go. This is what we're excerpting from. Excerpting? Is that a word? I think it is. Forward by Al Snow. I met John. Now this is talking about the authors. I already told you who the authors are. I met John when he contacted me about doing an interview for a magazine. It was quickly apparent to me that throughout the course of the interview that John and I had many similar interests, and as such were destined to become friends. This is Al Snow talking, so I'm quoting Al Snow. Ed, if you will. For instance, both John and I have a strong sense of community service and patriotism. For example, we both do magic acts for the blind. Quick note, they love card tricks. You just have to say, ta-da, after every trick. A little humor there from Al Snow. That's what makes him a great guy. And John and I are both tyrannical despots of third world countries. Quick note, long live Canada. What I told you, I was patriotic. You guys get what's going on, right? We're talking about Canada. John and I also enjoy physical competition and will fight a small farm animal for money at the drop of a hat. Quick note, John always says, find me a farm and I'll find you a fight. It's pretty funny, I guess. I don't know. I guess if you go cow tipping, we're here in the greater New England tri-state northeast corridor. Whatever that means. As uncanny as the two of us share all of this, John and I also connected on our deep revere and respect for two of the most amazing television actors of our time, Patrick Duffy and Simon McCorkindale. I know what you're thinking. See, but I'm old, so I know what they're thinking and what they're getting at. That's right. John and I would say empathetically, yes. Not just any Spain can bring to life the classic television characters of The Man from Atlantis and Manimal, respectively, and continue to not only have a career, but yet reach even greater heights when one would believe they had already reached the zenith. But what truly bonded John and I was true love of the art form. And this is what I want to talk about here on Chaos Corner. And this is what Al Snow gets into. And this is the different perspectives. And you put it together with my 50 years as a fan. Coming up on almost 50 plus, 55 years maybe. Seeing that I'm soon to be 6-0. In my 3+ decades in this business, trying to learn, being a part of it, being a talent, being whatever it is that you want to call it. So that's why I do the book reviews here, because they hit home. And I'm sorry to bog you down with the stories, but I want to get the quotes accurate. We don't want any problems with copyright or algorithms. We've got enough problems with the FCC and everything else on this channel. We're trying to grow. We're trying to give back. This is a harmless channel. So this is Al Snow and his connection to John Chapman and Rich Tarantino, the authors and writers of this book. Again, the time period, this is over a decade ago. It's not that long ago, although it seems like it's forever. Okay, so they're talking about their bond on the forward here by Al Snow, talking about John Chapman. Aside from jazz, this is Al Snow talking. Aside from jazz, only truly American created art form that the rest of the world has used as a template for their own endeavors. The art of physical storytelling, of competition, of good versus evil. A true passion play that has been and always will be a reflection of the very society we live in. That's what I just got finished talking about here on Chaos Corner, leading into what's Al Snow is regarding here and why this book was written. And you guys can poo-poo it and say what you want here on the book review, but this will be part one before I get into it. Again, I'm going to make this less than a half an hour, so stick here with me. Class is in session. It gets a little boring and bogged down, but you have to stick with it. When I give you the relatability, you're supposed to kick back and relax. This is story time. Take this by the campfire. Take this when you go camping or fishing or out with your family or exercising or wherever it is that you may be. Take this to your next pro wrestling school, seminar, training session. So what Al Snow says there is something that I believe in, and this is where I talk about what this channel is all about, and classicness, and just being old school and traditional, and honor and respect, and storytelling and emotional investment and ring psychology, and all the stories and phrases that you hear me say on here on the over 2.2 thousand videos that are on this channel. This is already like the second and third time I've tried to record this, because I'm trying to get into the frame of mind and how to relay it to you guys after YouTube took thousands and thousands of views away from us on copyrighted videos that you fans enjoyed, and a lot of it was my own personal content. So we're trying to gain them back here, guys. Let's get this fucking thing going, will ya? Okay, back to Al Snow. Again, the forward. During the course of the aforementioned interview, I could see and hear the passion and respect that John held for what I had too often found as a maligned and scorned segment of the entertainment industry that I had pursued as a career. Now, don't get me wrong. The wrestling business has certainly earned its fair share of its own. I mean, it just has, with scandals ranging from steroids and illicit and illegal drug use to tragic litany and premature deaths of its performers. As you put all that together and you try to roll those into sentence in your own thoughts and words, you realize that he's telling the truth. And it's as you could have written it yourself, especially if you come from the era of, say, whether it be the 70s, which I get it's not my demographic all the time, but the 80s, the 90s, into the Attitude Era, into the early 2000s, into the middle 2000s. It's only a decade ago. Listen up here in 2023, in this beautiful summer of 2023, when you watch this tonight or next week or during the weekend or wherever you are sitting at the ballpark. Just remember what you're being presented with here on Chaos Corner, and doing your due diligence and your research, and then being able to make it relatable to the fans. Again, Al Snow talking to John Chapman, the author of this. And again, we know who Al Snow is. I don't Google it. I don't have to tell you. I've been in his presence. You guys know who Al Snow is. One of the best minds out there in the business. And talk about, he went through hard knocks and learned the hard way. Al Snow's experienced almost everything. Say what you want. People are going to love him or hate him or whatever you're going to think. I've never heard too many people say a bad word about Snow. Well, unless maybe it's his ex-wife or something. I don't know. I wasn't there. This book doesn't ignore it, but instead focuses on the personal triumphs and success of those performers, on the gimmicks that have worked and the ones that failed miserably. At times, this book will make you laugh, but will always be poignant and make you appreciate the performers and their colorful careers and exploits. At times, this book takes the reader and fan and all of us back to when we sat down on the living room floor on Saturday mornings with our own bowl of cereal and got lost in the wonderful, wild, wacky, and magical world of professional wrestling. I believe that you, the reader, will not only realize John and his co-author Rich Tarantino's, quick note, I do know that Rich is no relation at all to Quentin, as the fact was not brought up at the profile that aired on America's Most Wanted. Just to let you guys know. Little side note. At their mastery of the written word and possibly learn something you didn't know. I'm always saying that. You guys know what I'm talking about if you're here on the channel. Along the way, you might learn something about professional wrestling. But you will also see and feel their love for the art form of professional wrestling. In doing so, you may begin to develop your own love for it too. Enjoy. That's what it's all about. Excellent message. Couldn't have said it better. And I actually threw in some of my words along with Al Snow's word. Why don't you guys think that we're full of BS around here? There it is. You see it, the forward by Al Snow. Again, had a chance to work with him in the early and middle 2000s on different events in New York and Connecticut, here in the greater New England, Northeast, tri-state area. And here's a forward run-in by Jimmy Snuka that we'll get to here. Butter, peace and love, butter. Peace and love, butter. However he does it, Jimmy, you're the man. Worked many of shows together, been across the ring, been in the same ring against Jimmy Jr. And what a true pleasure. No matter what you say about Jimmy, his exploits, and God rest his soul, whatever he did, I send my condolences to anybody involved in those incidents. But to me personally, working with Jimmy Snuka as Al Snow, these people, that's why I picked out this book, because of the oddity of it and the connection of the forward run-in, so to speak, by Jimmy Snuka, Al Snow, and then the outro with Terry Funk. Been able and fortunate and blessed enough and thankful enough to work with all three of these men, or at least in Al Snow's case, be on the same event and be able to talk to them. And that right there is priceless, and that's why this channel is in existence. Let's get back to the book. Again, a battle royal in the sky, the life and death of wrestling's 100 greatest gods and gimmicks. John Chapman, Rich Tarantino. We already did the Al Snow forward. We're almost 18 minutes in here. I'm moving on. I'm going to make this into a series, a two-parter. Just wanted to put it out because I was in the mood for storytelling and coffee time here on Chaos Corner on a beautiful weekend, Sunday, blessed, glorious. It's going to be unbelievable. John and Rick, now this is the Superfly talking better, so I'm not going to imitate Jimmy. I never did it, was good on imitations. John and Rich Tarantino are good brothers. Rich came up with the idea for this book, and he and John made an agreement. He and John made not only an agreement, a great tag team. They wrote that funny mustache book, Sweet Stash. That's right. They wrote an unbelievable mustache book, like the top 50 celebrities or sports entertainers or people of influence, whatever you want to call them, athletes, the top 50 and their mustaches. Again, I'm recommending this for the most marketable man in pro wrestling, Richard Holiday. That's right, Holiday. This is going out to you. Go out and get the mustache book, Sweet Stash, by John Chapman and Rich Tarantino. It really is an unbelievable read. And speaking of stashes, Holiday kind of looks like Scott Hall or several different guys. He's got the machismo working. I'll just say that to say this because I tell it like it is. Follow Holiday on all social media platforms. And Holiday, go out and get the Sweet Stash book. I'll give you some information. I'll inbox you. I'll email you or something. Now this is Snuka still talking. This wrestling book remembers many who have died and many bad gimmicks. We have lost many greats, and I'm very sad when I hear that a young guy passed away because of drugs or whatever. I wish I could have helped them all. Brother, as far as gimmicks, this brother never needed one. I saw some pretty bad gimmicks out there, but the Superfly wasn't one of them. It's a quote from the Superfly Snuka. And now, as you see, this book, again, written about 11, 12 years ago, published and released then. Since then, Superfly has passed away, so rest in peace, brother. So we read the forward by Al Snow. Again, that's why this book is a little different. some influential people and trainers and people that were in the business, legends. So Al Snow, there's the forward run-in by the Superfly. I'm going to get on to the dedication. The dedication, if I'm not mistaken, is written by Rich Tarantino, the co-author. Again, it's Rich Tarantino, John Chapman. Hold on. They have, if you read the book and you go to the back and the exploits of this book or the different breakdowns, these guys are pretty impressive for what they've accomplished themselves. Here's the afterword. I'm not jumping ahead. It's not giving anything away. Just different things on this that I want you guys to go out and put a little time in this. Check it out. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of the afterword here by Terry Funk. And once again, you guys know I was able to work with Terry Funk out in the Hammond, Indiana Civic Center, a Chicago area for the World Wrestling Zone. Stephen Larry Gregorovic, unbelievable. Justin Price, a.k.a. Justin Roberts, now on the debut with Josh Matthews. You know who Josh is, Tough Enough, Impact, WWE, so on and so forth, as well as Tough Tommy Capone. That's right, Tough Tommy, facing the legendary Terry Funk. Even had Justin Roberts put me over in his book. I'm forever grateful and thankful. You know, WWE, his journey, best seat in the house, being backstage. And, you know, of course, now Justin, huge part, the Dapper Yapper in AEW. So what an amazing guy, an amazing man. I've known him since he was a teenager, back to the AWA days, Superstars, and the World Wrestling Zone and other organizations, and traveled a lot out in the Midwest and even here in the Northeast together. So kudos to Justin. And again, that's why the connection here of Superfly giving the run-in on the commentary, or Al Snow's forward. Again, the event, that same event that Al Snow was on. Dusty Rhodes was there. Kamala was there. Jerry the King Lawler. King Kong Bundy. Sergeant Slaughter. All in the same locker room. Being able to pick their brains, learn from you, just to sit there and shut up and not say anything. And this is earlier this century, earlier mid-2000s. Shut up and listen. By then, what am I, in my 40s? Right? Still learning, still listening. Let that sink in. Let it marinate. Here's the afterword by Terry Funk, and then we'll get out of here. Conversations, story time with the GOC, and we'll come back and we'll do some more. Like I said, we got a 24-hour concept coming up, and even talking about doing things with the Professor Rick Del Santo over at Pro WrestleZone, an unbelievable podcast with some unbelievable guests and interviews that Rick does over there, and the different people that he co-hosts with that are very good. So keep an eye out on that on all social media platforms. Again, fans, sit back. This is nothing. 23 minutes. Come on. Terry Funk talking. You yellow egg-sucking dog. Fight forever. Fight forever. Thanks, Terry, for the chair across the head and the left to the proboscis. The kick in the nuts. I don't think I forgot. Well, I love you, Terry. You're a legend. I respect you. I want to remember the good, not the bad. I don't dwell on the bad things. It's been an unbelievable situation. I would have never imagined that so many of my friends would not be here. And I mean that in a couple of ways. Like because of death, their brains got scrambled, or they've had physically just broken down, disabilities. Their legacy lives on, and hopefully it'll continue to do so. I'm sure if you could ask any one of these guys, they wouldn't change a thing. Because the good wasn't just good, it was great in terms of wrestling. I bet even if you asked the guys with serious problems, they wouldn't trade it for anything. Here I am going in for my second knee replacement. Remember the time frame here, fans. It's about 11 years ago, 12 years ago. This was released in 2012, I believe. I'll research it. You guys have been here from the beginning, you know. Here I am going in for my second knee replacement, and hell, I wouldn't change it for anything. I've had, our thoughts and prayers are with you, Terry, right now, as you're still battling things. God bless you, my friend. I was always looking for some, in terms of gimmicks, The wonderful things outnumbered the bad so much. Terry Funk was a hook in itself. But one time when I went to San Antonio with Joe Blanchard and decided to come out in a mask, and then in a couple of weeks later, I'd reveal myself. I was going to come out as the Doctor Knows It All. When they'd ask what's my occupation on TV, I'd say chiropractor, a bone specialist. It didn't do me any bit of money, that's for sure. When I was in New York, Vince asked me if I wanted to be, and I said, Chainsaw Charlie. Remember Funkus Chainsaw Charlie? Or even now Leatherface, my good friend, my old buddy Tony Myers from Japan. Konnichiwa, bitches. Originally from Jersey. He's back here now, Tony Myers, Leatherface. Google it, look it up. The idea was, so don't blame him. It got over like a lead fart. Funk wanted to do it, is what he's telling you. It wasn't Vince's idea. The difference between wrestling then and now, and nothing against creating characters, and I understand what they do and why they do it, but we were just extensions of our own personalities. It had a wonderful lure to the wrestling fan. That is the one big difference between now and then. But they can't do it anymore. The name value and the TV time. Not what they put into them. It just isn't. It's a worldwide form of entertainment, and I understand why they have to control it. Truly. The worst gimmicks ever, the absolute worst probably, and this is Terry Funk talking, was Chainsaw Charlie, but maybe they were from Jack Pfeffer. And if you listen to Jim Cornette and you know anything about history or wrestling, you know who Jack Pfeffer is. He was a promoter and he created a ton of guys. He was an absolute idiot who picked his nose all the time. One of the gimmicks he created, and he created hundreds, was Lou Cares. Lou Cares. Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Hello? McFly? Lou Thez was champion, but he had a card with Lou Cares on it. Jack Pfeffer. This is for you, Cornette. I hope you're listening. He was quite an idiot, but there were a lot of idiots, and I loved them all. It was wonderful, wonderful world of wrestling, to quote Terry Funk. How about that? Here's Funk with Rhodes in this picture in the book. I don't want to get too close. We'll ruin it there. We don't want the camera. Again, an interesting read. Before I move on to the dedication, I look at different chapters and what the headlines are. You guys, again, come back. I've done some of this on the channel already. I've done some of this book review. I really have. Everything from Ted Arcidi to Bruiser Brody. Again, the 100 worst gimmicks. So just the visual and the stories alone, it's well worth it. Again, for you aficionados, and another gentleman that I had a chance to work with, Eddie, rest in peace, ECMO, Samoan Dynasty Bloodline with Rikishi, an unbelievable series of bouts, Umaga. Again, some great stories, things that you guys are going to want to find entertaining and need to know in this business. And again, I'm not saying it's 100, take this for gospel. It's pro wrestling. Let's not take it too fucking serious. Okay? So just different things, even as they had recently on Dark Side of the Ring, Adrian Adonis, a nice section on Adrian in here. As I thumbed through the book, Rick Rude, the one-man gang, the fake President Jack Tunney, the Turnpike incident, a lot of different things. Tiny Lister, stuff that I'm going to want to come back and read to you guys and share with you. The Crippling Legacy, which we know a lot about, unfortunately. So different things here. Even the Missing Link, who I heard was quite the prick. I never met him. Remember the Missing Link? So, guys, we're 30 minutes in here. I want to break this up into segments in different parts. Definitely come back, because I'm going to jump right back into this as I thumb through it. We'll start off with, unless you guys want me to finish it now, before we get into the characters and chapters. As you see, the chain is like my time, like the sands of the hourglass. As the world turns, or these are the times of our lives, the days of our lives. General Hospital, does it have that feel here on story time, storytelling, coffee conversations with the GOC? That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to relay here. A little toned back, laid back version of the GOC. Because again, there's even a poem in here by Lanny Poffo at the beginning. The dedication here is something that I did want to read. This was originally written by John Chapman in 2011, in May 2011, for the Huffington Post, of all places. Again, the two gentlemen, Chapman and Tarantino here. Again, not Quentin Tarantino. They have quite the resume that I read through the back of the book here. This book was purchased by yours truly when I happened to be going through a local bookstore, a Barnes and Noble, years ago, looking for the latest, because I grew up in the magazine era. You guys know that, of the 70s and 80s. And it really is, by Chapman, and a good dedication. So should I read it now? Should we come back? The dedication by Chapman, one of the co-authors. Now this is co-author writing from his fan perspective, obviously. I became a pro wrestling fan thanks to Cyndi Lauper's The Goonies Are Good Enough music video. Remember that one? What was I then when that came out? I had to be in my middle 20s. I'm not sure. I'm showing my age here. Which would feature various World Wrestling Federation superstars making hilarious cameo appearances. Drawn in by the quirkiness of it all, I quickly became a fan of the WWF, now the WWE. Men in Tights. I couldn't wait to see what Bobby the Brain Heenan or Roddy Piper would say, or what opponent and turnbuckle George the Animal Steele would devour next. Right from the get-go, however, two stars resonated most with me. Obviously, no child of the 1980s, considering I'm a child of the 1960s. Yikes. I'm proud of that. Could live his life without idolizing Hulk Hogan. I was in my 20s at that point, trying to break into business. I respected him, admired him, but idol worship is not good. I'm just saying. I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly here. Raw dog. A true Hulkamaniac who even tried making a few protein shakes, but the Hulkster wasn't my only idol. Randy Macho Man Savage sucked me in with his wrestling style, unpredictable behavior, and even more impressive mic skills. The lovely Miss Elizabeth didn't hurt either. Easy on the eyes. Before long, I had this t-shirt, a 7-Eleven Big Gulp with his character on it, and even tried snap into a Slim Jim, no matter how gross they tasted. I remember in the late 80s, my father would take me to the WWF matches, no matter how near or far away they were based, and a constant main event was Savage versus longtime rival Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. My dad was a good sport. He wasn't a fan, but he knew how much I was all things WWF. But that's what I did, yours truly, in the early and mid-70s. Just to give you different perspectives and time periods to relate to 2023. Simpler times. Appreciate what you have. Respect for the past. It got you where you are, and certainly will get you where you want to go. I was all things WWF. Both Savage and Steamboat were notoriously known throughout the industry. Watch WrestleMania 3 now. As best in the business, and they could clearly didn't disappoint. I loved every minute of it and appreciated the bonding over body slams and elbow drops. By the early 1990s, I stopped watching wrestling because I felt it was time to grow up. By 1997, my senior year of college, however, I was sucked back in by, yes, Savage and Hogan. At the nudging of my best friend, I was talked into watching World Championship Wrestling, WCW, because all the 1980s icons were back on TV, reinventing the genre and kicking WWF's ass, aka the Monday Night Wars. I was already, at that point, in my middle and late 30s and in the industry for a good decade. That's what you get on relatability here on this channel, and that's why you watch it. The connection between you, me, and the industry. By 2001, WCW was over, but Savage was not. He filmed a cameo as Bonesaw McGraw in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. And I was fortunate to land an interview for a Marvel publication I freelanced for. Now remember, this is one of the co-authors talking. An article from the Huffington Post, 2011. I found out, quite fittingly, while at opening day with my father watching the New York Mets, my lifelong team as well. See the connection here? Over 50 years for the Mets. 1969, winning it all. 1973, making it to the World Series. 1986, winning it all. The Kings of Queens, the bad guys won. 2000, the Subway Series. Will it ever happen again? 2015 to make it back? Wow, let's go Mets. Let's fucking go Mets. We have a lot in common. John Chapman, Ron Tarantino, the co-authors of this book. And this is the dedication in the beginning of the book. Opening day to the Mets, and decided to check my voicemail. John Chapman, this is Randy Macho Man Savage. The wrestling icon's attorney let him know I wanted to interview him and called me to set it up. When I called him back that day, all the memories from what I did earlier in my youth and my dad and I going back to the matches came back to me once I interviewed him. I was beside myself. We hit it off instantly. If over an hour he talked the squared circle. His early days of minor league baseball. He also told me how he got the Macho Man moniker. In the weeks leading up to the article's publishing date, I spoke with Savage, the Macho Man, roughly once a week. Once it was printed, those phone calls continued. He'd often call asking for copies of the magazine. Meanwhile, while all this was happening, I changed my voicemail at work to Macho's voice saying, John Chapman. It's not a very good imitation. It sounds more like Road Warrior Hawk. Macho and I eventually met in Orlando on a weekend where we were coincidentally both in town. On the phone, Savage was his in-ring persona. He talked to me just like he would talk to Mean Gene Okerlund. And when we met face to face, it was just the same. We met in a hotel lobby and I saw him coming to me from a mile away. He pointed from far away as he had so many opponents. Gave me the firmest handshake of my life. Not the dead fish that is people try to traditionally kayfabe you with. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. He ordered a New York Reuben in honor of my New York friend, he said. Me! Meaning the author, the co-author. And we talked everything from his near purchase of WCW to his on and off again friendship with the Hulkster. I also told him about the days of me going to the Meadowlands or New York area arenas with my father and watching perform at arguably the peak of his career. Always humble and surprisingly down to earth, Savage smiled at me, raised a beer, and said, I'll drink to that. I mean, cheers to Chapman, Tarantino, Al Snow, Terry Funk. Rest in peace, Superfly, and I'll share to you guys. That's what I'm talking about, Macho Man. I'll drink to that. After he picked up the lunch bill, we shook hands once more, and he thanked me for the article. He even met some of my friends and took photos with them. Always take the photo, always take the picture. My PSA. Memories, legacy. Weeks later, he sent signed photographs. How about that? Talking about the Macho Man. Calling me the man and thanking me again. We talked on the phone a few times after that, but ultimately lost touch. For years, I tried to contact him with no avail. 2 years after interviewing Savage, I ended up interviewing Hogan. I remember how proud I was of myself that I got to interview the wrestling mega powers. Again, these are the authors talking, the co-author. This is the dedication. Savage's death hit me hard. And that's saying a lot considering how many wrestlers from that glorious era have died tragically. Not only was Savage a part of my childhood and personified the strong relationship I've had with my father, but he lived up to the hype when I met him, which rarely happens, as we all know. Be careful about wanting to meet your idols or people that you look up to or your heroes. Let that sink in. There will never be another Randy Savage. Without him, there would be no Stone Cold Steve Austin or heels you could root for. As a wrestler, I idolized him. As a man, I respected him. Long live the Macho King. And that was the dedication, originally written by John Chapman on May 5th, 2011, for the Huffington Post. Again, John Chapman, Rich Tarantino, the foreword by Al Snow, the run-in by Snuka, the afterthought with Terry Funk. Again, this is an unbelievable book. Again, let me just double check before we get out of here. I'm going to come back and cover more of this. A nice dedication, a nice forward. Terry Funk had some great words. Again, I have a personal connection with every one of these guys except the authors on the beginning here. So that's why it was important for me to bring this to you guys. A battle royal in the sky, the life and death of wrestling's 100 greatest gods and gimmicks. 2012. Just double checking it. And again, the contents are almost overwhelming. Almost 2 pages. Yes, 2012. They even have a little something on the back here. Well, this was purchased in the U.S. back then for $15.95, and in Canada, you sons of bitches, $17.95 back in the day. All right, fans. This may be in separate segments or separate parts, but I wanted to bring this to you. We're 45 minutes in here on this conversation, storytelling, and story time with the Guardian of Chaos. Come on back. Don't you dare miss it. This will be uploaded for your Sunday and for whenever you want. Don't you dare miss it. Enjoy the sounds. Soak it in. Hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. Going through some hard times right now, all of us. Don't you dare miss it.